Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another episode of the Think Medical Podcast. My name is Hamza. It's always good to be here. Thank you so much for joining us once again. Today we are going to be talking about something more important. Again, challenging your thought process and really helping you to see some of the things that you may have been ignoring. Because today, what I'm going to talk about is the resilience premium healthcare refuses to pay for. Because when you talk about a resilience premium, most of you don't understand, but you've done it so many times in your organization that you think that is the way to go. Let me explain. If I ask you about the last person you hired or the last person you got a pass over in a hire, what were some of the gaps that you look out for? What were some of the things that you looked on the resume and questioned? A certain number of years of work that you probably wasn't sure whether this person really put in any effort at all. Is that what you're looking out for? Or were you looking out for the time this person was demoted for whatever reason it was? What exactly are you looking out for? Are you looking out for the time that this person was part of a project or an organization where it failed? Because if you start looking at these things, then you're actually the one or the people who are refusing to pay for the resilience premium that in the healthcare industry especially we are failing to pay. Because look, whatever we are looking at, healthcare worships pedigree and the right school, the right residency, the clean and broken climb. We treat a flawless resume as the gold standard because that's what we look out for. But there's something here today I'm going to challenge you. Resilience and the resilience premium, that's the value that's sitting right in front of us that healthcare consistently refuses to pay for. And once we go through this, you understand what this means. So let's look at this, a business case and in cold numbers, right? Let me start by with money. And because this isn't a feel-good episode, this is a margin argument. Healthcare is in a structural staffing crisis right now, okay? So it's not like a post-pandemic blip that we had when during that period when we actually had COVID. This is becoming structural. Anywhere you go into, whether it's medical, whether it's dental, whether it's nursing, because right now you have to spend between 6 to half a million. Like you have to spend. Let me put it this way. Some projections actually estimate that over 6.5 million healthcare professionals may exit the workforce. So I'm trying to put this in the numbers that you can translate into what that means for you in the dollars. Because the US is staring at a physician shortage that runs as high as 124,000 at mid-2030s. So it's a problem. And turnover is where the numbers get vicious, because when you are replacing like a single registered nurse, for instance, you are spending anything around $56,000 to about $61,000 to replace one nurse. And you have to look at how much this is turning over. And if you lose a nurse today, it probably takes an average, and by research, it takes about 83 days to be able to replace that nurse. So you have to be able to look at this in a turnover environment. So here's the question. When you're operating in the thinnest talent market in modern healthcare history, why would you voluntarily make your filter even narrow? Because at that time you're hurting yourself. And every time you reject a candidate because they have a scar, like a failed practice, like a role that they got fired from, a venture that created, you are shrinking an already starving pipeline. And this is something that you have to look at. So pedigree filters feel rigorous. But in a shortage market, an overly narrow filter isn't a sign of high standards. It's a self-inflicted wound, and you are paying premium over cost to keep rehiring the same untested profile while the proven recoveries, and you have to look at these people who have been through this process as proven recoveries, are sitting out there and they are presenting themselves to you, and you are not paying attention to them. So why is recovery real? Why is it a measurable trait? And I'm going to tell you the science of this. I'm not just going to blow up some nonsense that you probably have heard or read or seen in somewhere before. And this is where people actually assume that I'm being sentimental, because I'm really not. And resilience isn't a vibe. It's one of the most studied constructs in organization psychology. and it predicts performance. So there's a body of research around something called psychological capital, or PsyCap. And it's built in 4 components. It's built on the component of hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism, right? And the empirical work is consistent. So employees with higher PsyCap, which is psychological capital, show better job performance, high job satisfaction, and lower turnover intention. They don't even think about it. They don't even think about leaving. Resilience specifically, that's the capacity to absorb a setback and bounce back, is linked to stronger engagement, which then drives performance. So you have to look at this from a research standpoint. And here's the crucial part, right? Resilience is not a fixed trait you are born with or without. The research treats it as a state, like something that can be developed, trained, and strengthened, which means a candidate who has already survived a significant professional setback has effectively done the training already in that, and they have built the muscle on the job in real conditions with the real stakes. So think about the asymmetry here. The candidate who has survived from the real failure has prized in failure. They know what it feels like to be flat on their back professionally, and they know they can get up because they already did that. They've been through the process. They've actually seen this, and they've gotten it done so many different times. And this is the kind of candidate that you should be looking at. So there's research on entrepreneurs specifically, people who have failed ventures, showing that the ones with strong self-efficacy and an internal locus of control actively learn from their failure and convert it into, so if you think about internal locus of control and you have an external locus of control, so this is also an important component that you need to be looking at. There are people who would, for everything that happens to them, will blame something else for that problem. People with internal locus of control would always look within themselves and ask the question, what could I have done better to prevent this from happening? And these are some of the things that would definitely change the dynamics of what we look at when we look at this thing. So the only question is, what kind of failure are we talking about? Because again, I keep talking about failure, I'm talking about resilience. The temptation here is that people broaden it so wide and say, okay, anything at all somebody's failing at should be pardonable. But this is not what I'm trying to say at this point. The only and this is some of the things that we have to look at. So I'm going to differentiate between the 2 types of failure. There's one called competence failure, and the other one called integrity failure. What do they mean? When you are careful on what you are looking for when you're hiring these people, and what the kind of resilience you are looking out for, you are looking at it on the side of competence failure. What is this? The business that didn't make it, the targets you missed, the role you got let go because it wasn't a fit, the strategic bet that didn't pay off, the demotion. These are metabolizable failures. You can easily metabolize them. These are ones that built the muscle. These are the ones that I want to hear about in an interview. Because if you listen to these are things that people learn from. These are things that people have already taken a course on in real life. But the other side of this is integrity failure. So the fact that we are looking for doesn't mean in any type of failure we should quickly consider that. Patient safety negligence, fraud, board actions for misconduct, mishandled substance issues that endangered people, ethical breaches, they are things that you have to pay attention to, which do not play any role in your organization at all. If somebody has integrity failures, you are not playing with them at all. These are not what I'm talking about, and they don't get that kind of resiliency premium that you're looking at for. So how do this actually work for the right kind of interview? Stop asking questions like, tell me about the weakness and blah 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 blah. Stop talking about all those things. You have to ask questions like, tell me about something you built or led that didn't work. What happened? What did you do next? Then listen for these 3 things. 1, when you ask a question like that, listen if the person is taking ownership of whatever happened. Do they take responsibility, or is everything else somebody else's fault? And this person was supposed to have done this and they never did it, so that's why I couldn't do this and this happened to that. Who is actually doing those things? 2, specificity of a lesson. Is they give you a vague thing, I learned a lot. It's nothing. You have to say, I learned, I scaled, it has to be specific to something, not just as vague as I learned a lot. I learned that when I do X, it leads to Y, and Y would usually lead to W, and that comes back as a very undesirable consequence of A, right? It's very specific. And 3, the bounce. They have to be able to bounce back, because when we're looking at that resilience premium, the big feature here is the fact that they've faced some of these challenges and they've been able to bounce back. So what does that mean? What did they do in the 12 months after? Did they retreat? Did they re-engage? The bounce is the resilience made very visible, and that's something that you need to look at. So here's where I'll leave you. Healthcare has a talent efficiency hiding. So first of all, don't even narrow that gap more than it is right now. The resilience premium is real. I am not here, and I've given you the science to support this. And it's on sale, because almost nobody is paying for some of these things, and so we have to be able to look at them differently. Please pay more attention and ask questions differently when you are looking at this the next time. This has been another episode of the Think Clinical podcast. Thank you, and do have a good day.